streaming now on Peacock.
We sell toilet tissue and local newspapers. That is in order of quality.
From the crew that brought you The Office
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
comes a new comedy series.
Have you read this paper?
It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Meet the underdog journalists
I hope it's not too disruptive to have me shake everything up.
Don't be so self-defecating.
with major issues.
Oscar. Oh, God. Not again.
The Paper, only on Peacock, streaming now.
Prime delivery is fast. How fast are we talking? We're talking puzzle toys and LickPad delivered so fast you can get this puppy under control fast. Pee-pads, Colimat, Peg Hammer, fast and fast. And those training TREATS, faster than you can say sit fast. Fast, free delivery. It's on Prime.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Good evening, I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper. Tonight on the show, best-selling author and tarot reader, yes, I said tarot reader, Lori Deanne joins us to explain why tarot has become mainstream and the surprising people like truckers who've asked for a reading. Filmmaker Lisa Rideout discusses her new documentary about beloved Canadian teen drama Degrassi and its premiere at TIFF. Tracy and Martina, Kate Breton's comedy podcast duo, stop by to dish on the celebrities popping up in their comments section. And conspiracy expert Dr. Lee Kunla unravels the mystery of Umbrella Man and what's really at the heart of all conspiracies. And now it's time for Technology Time, our tech segment with endlessly knowledgeable tech expert Carmi Levy. Carmi, let's talk about why Google shareholders are celebrating today.
Basically, they were living under basically like a sword of Damocles, and it was hanging over the company for months. They had been sued by the Justice Department years ago for behaving in a monopolistic, anti-competitive manner. And a couple of years ago, the judge who was presiding in the case ruled, they said, yeah, Google has essentially been a monopolist, and they lost the case. And ever since then, they've been trying to figure out what the penalty should be for that. And last year, they floated the idea that, well, one of the things should be, well, maybe they should be forced to sell the Chrome browser or even possibly the Android operating system. In other words, break the company up so that it won't be able to behave in an anti-competitive way. And so now that judge, his name is Amit Mehta, he's a federal court judge, has ruled that, nope, the company will not have to sell its browser. It won't have to sell Android. That the fact that the Department of Justice was asking for that penalty was what he called an overreach. And he says instead the company will have to basically change its ways a little bit. In other words, it won't be able to sign exclusive deals with other companies around search. It will have to share data about search with some of its competitors and kind of not behave like an 800-pound gorilla. So they really dodged a bullet here because this could have been absolutely seismic. If Google had to sell off pieces of itself, it would have significantly changed the market and would have really compromised Google as a company going forward. So they are heaving a huge sigh of relief.
So when people hear, as I have on the news, experts calling for breaking up big tech, this is sort of a real life example of what that would have looked like potentially, and that it didn't happen in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And like a generation ago, Microsoft was in a very similar boat, and they were forced to no longer include Internet Explorer by default in their Windows operating systems so that people had more of a choice. But by the time that decision came down, the browser wars had been won and lost, and Microsoft won them. So sometimes the courts decide to kind of crack down on technology companies like this, but we live in the era of the Trump administration now, and it looks like both governments and the court systems are less likely to want to punish big tech. They seem to be going easier on them. And I think this reflects somewhat that sort of new, let's call it landscape. The judge wanted to sort of back away from the cliff face, so to speak, and Google manages to escape with all of its pieces intact.
Well, you've given me a great lead-in to our next headline, which was this weird story about a video of items being thrown from the window of the White House circulating, and then Trump commenting on it. And what is this? Why is someone throwing furniture out of the window of the White House? Like, what's going on? What is included in this video?
So this video goes viral. It shows large pieces, could be furniture, could be, large materials, who knows, sheetrock, being tossed out the second floor window of the White House. Now, I mean, normally that's not a big deal, but when it's the White House, it clearly is. And so, of course, as you can imagine, this video went viral, and Trump denied that happened. He said, "Look, these, the video has to be fake because the windows, they're heavy, they're sealed." And then the White House confirmed, his staff confirmed that the video is not fake. The video is real. There's a renovation company that's been doing work when Mr. Trump is not in the White House, and that's what they were doing. They'd opened up the windows and tossed something out. They also, during a press conference, one of the reporters there showed the video to Mr. Trump, and then he he still doubled down, despite the fact that his officials were saying it's real. He said, "Look, it's AI, it's a fake video, it's fake news." And then he said the quiet part out loud, and I quote, "If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll just have to blame AI." And that is chilling because we know that video generator apps, AI video generators, are incredibly high fidelity now. They're getting better all the time. Google introduced something a couple months ago called VO3, which is stunningly precise. It's very difficult to tell real from AI generated. And so now if you have the world's most powerful politician essentially saying, "I can just use AI as an excuse," it's kind of a frightening place to go. We all talk about misinformation and disinformation online, and now the president of the United States is saying, "It's okay, I will use that as an excuse." Very frightening place to be.
Well, yeah, it felt to me a little bit like the kind of like a snake eating itself, because when I think about how AI started, we were really worried about people being genuinely tricked by very, very accurate, very good AI videos and audio. And I remember the conversation really focusing on trying to help people decide what is real and what is fake, what key identifiers would be. But now, as they've become so good, the bigger issue is that real video, people could just say is AI. It's like I didn't really ever think about that. I don't know why I didn't. And now it's unlocked a new horror for me. So
yeah, it changes our behaviors around technology, and it makes it easier to try to get away with things by simply using this common, it's an AI video, a deep fake excuse, even if the video is real. And for the record, a number of experts have analyzed this video forensically. They say there's no evidence that it's AI generated. Those usual tells, the shadowing, lighting, and things like that. The way things move. There's a flag that's blowing in the wind. That's often a tell as well, because it just looks like like it's been created and doctored. None of those signs are there, and there are no indicators in the metadata that it was labeled as AI. So as far as everyone's concerned, it's real, and we're entering a fairly fraught era. And normally you would expect your political leaders to, I guess, try to, calm people down and find the truth. But in, the Trump administration era, that is clearly not the case.
I also think that forensic analysis of AI content seems like an increasingly viable career path. Maybe nobody is going to go into radio anymore. Maybe they're just going to say, "Hey, my job is going to be to sit here and tell you what's real and fake on the internet for a living."
Parents, talk to your kids, right? This is going to be a skill that's very much in demand. Cybersecurity too, and maybe a combination of them. But certainly being able to dig underneath a multimedia asset and figure out where it comes from, how it's been modified, if it's been modified, what role AI may or may not have played in its creation. Because you can use AI. I'm a photographer, and I know the tools that I use, Photoshop and Lightroom. They do have AI tools that are built into them, and they keep getting added over time. So AI is part of my workflow, even though I don't really ask for it. So, it's not a black and white thing. It's very subtle. And so it will be an increasingly important skill going forward. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to tell the difference between truth and untruth.
Now that I'm justifiably quite scared, let's go from Donald Trump over to Mark Carney. He's being urged by a coalition of experts and public figures to kind of bolster some of our digital protections, I would say.
Yeah, so Margaret Atwood, Adrian Clarkson, about 70 of these public figures, academics, expert groups, they wrote a letter to him basically saying, we have to get better at protecting our digital sovereignty. So, when you use, like right now, I'm using Google's services. I'm using Gmail for email. I'm using Google Docs for my notes. I'm looking at the screens in front of me, and pretty much all the services that I use are American. And the technology that I use, the laptop that I have is an Apple, so it comes from the U.S. It's an American company. They are saying, well, given what's happening with the tariff war, the trade war, Canada should be moving some of this capability home. So we should have cloud services that are based in Canada. We should be very careful about where we store things in the cloud, because about 25% of the time, our data, even if it's a Canadian service, it ends up moving over the border into the U.S.
My guest is Carmi Levy, and when we get back, we're going to move from important topics like digital sovereignty over to AI drive-thrus, so stick with us.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
We're building a wall between bad radio and good radio, and it's called The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, joined by tech expert Carmi Levy on It's Time for Technology Time. Thank you for sticking around to talk to me about a headline that made me laugh, but I'm sure is also quite serious. And this is about Taco Bell shutting down AI drive-thru experiments. And I think the headline said, Taco Bell says no mas to AI, to AI drive-thru experiment.
So a couple years ago, Taco Bell, they took 500 restaurant locations in the U.S. and they added AI into their drive-thrus. And so basically, instead of speaking to a human when you wanted to order a burrito or a chalupa or whatever else you order there to shorten your life, you would be speaking to an AI bot, a kind of a specialized version of a chat bot, which would then parse your order, figure out what you wanted, and then tell the kitchen, make it and serve it.
Sounds annoying is what it sounds like.
It is annoying because, that moment when you're talking to a chatbot and you realize it's a chatbot, oh, this person is a human, I'm speaking to technology. Well, so essentially it started making mistakes, which we know AI does all the time. That's just the way it's designed. It's not perfect. And so people started thinking, how can I try to trip it up, knowing that the AI is there? So people started video taping themselves. So someone drives up to the drive-thru and asks for 18,000 cups of water, please. And then hilarity ensues while, the bot tries to figure out how to fulfill that order. In other cases, someone asks for Mountain Dew and the AI answers, would you like something to drink with that? And then it wasn't able to break out of the loop. And of course, that video also went viral. So it has not gone, it's the law of unintended consequences insofar as AI is concerned, and it has not gone well. AI now, Taco Bell now admits that it did not meet initial expectations. It was supposed to speed things up and make them more precise. It kind of did the opposite. And so now they're removing the AI component. So no more chatbots in the drive-thru, but they say they'll continue to use AI. They didn't say how, but elsewhere in the restaurant to improve service, which will be interesting. I think they could have saved themselves a heck of a lot of heartache, because McDonald's did the same thing a few years ago. They put AI into their drive-thrus and it didn't go well. A few months later, it took about 3 or 4 months, and they removed it because it was just hilarious. Wendy's also has been working with Google, but because the technology is so flawed, they've run into some significant obstacles. And so everyone seems to be trying this because they want to make it look like they're leading edge. But man, this is technology that in this context, not ready for prime time. And restaurant after restaurant, they keep learning this hard lesson.
It went over like a lead balloon. Nobody liked it. And obviously, I don't know that it would be a satisfying customer service experience for anybody who bought a bowl from them. And then the other thing that makes me think of this, again, it's not AI, but it is sort of the doing away with human labor, was the self-checkout movement. And I know that many places are starting to roll that back and make changes to it and reduce them because, wouldn't you know, it created an uptick in shoplifting. These things feel obvious to me. It feels obvious to me that ordering from AI at a drive-through window is going to create a long line of honking cars. And it feels obvious to me that if you let people check themselves out, they are going to probably steal some stuff. It maybe even just accidentally. Like maybe it's just a byproduct of having something in the bottom of your cart. I don't know, but anyway. So I'm kind of glad Taco Bell is saying no to this because I'm not ready to order something from an AI chatbot yet. If you've ever, I don't know, Uber is my number one complaint. I use Uber a lot. I'm probably one of their best riders in the entire GTA. But whenever there's an issue, it's not often, you can't reach a person.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to see consumers using their power to push back against this sort of this massive rush toward automation without really considering the consequences. But we live in an age of social media where news of this gets around very quickly, and consumers are able to band together to force these companies to rethink those strategies. Because in the end, they don't help us. They don't make service faster. They reduce cost for them, for the companies, but they certainly don't benefit us. And we're the ones who ultimately pay that price. So good to see Taco Bell backing away from the precipice. I really do hope this sets a bit of an example for other companies to follow.
Now, I appreciated this story that said chatbots can be manipulated through flattery and peer pressure. Everyone thinks that computers are better than us and smarter than us, and apparently they're not. Just like humans, you can flatter them and make them succumb to peer pressure.
Yeah, this is research that comes to us from the University of Pennsylvania, and basically it reinforces the fact that chatbots are they're not human. They're designed to essentially tell us what they think we want to hear and push the conversation in that direction. So they also showed that if you flatter it, like let's say I want to make a drug, right? In this case, the drug they used was lidocaine. You can actually make lidocaine, but of course that violates the guardrails of a chatbot, of ChatGPT. But if you flatter ChatGPT a little bit, then it will magically tell you how to make lidocaine from ingredients that you can easily find. Exactly. So it's easy to, basically soft pedal your way toward getting the chatbot to tell you what you want it to tell you. It is actually frightening because the so-called guardrails that are in place to protect us from this kind of thing are easily bypassed. And this research proves that. And I think that's an important message for all of us, is that this technology is early stage, it is imperfect, and in some cases, if we're committed to it, it is incredibly dangerous, can put us in places and give us advice that we probably should not be receiving.
Okay, so this makes me wonder, is it because the chatbots are actually more human than we think that they succumb to this? Because that freaks me out. Like if it's supposed to be designed to not give you the ingredients for something you shouldn't be legally allowed to make at home, but you can just tell it it's nice and it will eventually do it. Like what? I just am wondering where in the programming allowed for this? Is it because a human being designed the program and they would be like that? Or is it because it builds up so much of its knowledge from human interactions and then human interactions are flawed through flattery as well? Like where does this start?
I think this technology is really good at convincing us that it is human. It does a really great impression or mimic of it, even though, if you dig beneath the surface, you realize there's nothing human about it at all. But I think a lot of it, and I think you touched on it in your comments, is that it has to do with how it's been built. And I think in most cases around how it's been trained. So these bots have ingested huge amounts of data from the real world. And that includes cases where, maybe someone goes on a date and it manages to use flattery to turn a no into a yes, and they get that date, or they get the second date, even though they probably shouldn't have. And so that experience ends up being one of the things that trains the AI bot. So guess what? Now the bot is going to behave in that way as well. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing now. When you use a giant vacuum cleaner to suck up huge amounts of data, it's going to take the good as well as the bad. And in this case, it's learning that flattery can sometimes get you everywhere.
OpenAI has added parental controls to ChatGPT, and we've touched on this before. They're certainly not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They have kind of usually been dragged to these things against their will because bad things have happened and then they have wound up going public and the government starts to notice. But it is still a piece of kind of good news, in my opinion, that anything is happening at all.
It is. I mean, the cynic in me says they got sued by parents of a 16-year-old who ended his life after speaking for months with ChatGPT, and the chatbot actually suggested that he end his life, actually offered to write a suicide note. So now this is working its way through the court. Of course, they're responding to that, and so I'll take it because I'll take anything that makes these tools more protective, less risky, less dangerous to younger users. But let's be clear: this is an industry that's focused hell bent on growth and profitability, and they're probably not very happy about this. But over the next month or so, OpenAI has announced that there will be new parental controls. Parents will be able to link their accounts to their kids' accounts. They will be able to decide how ChatGPT responds to their kids. They'll be able to disable certain features like the chat history and the memory. So it'll be less able to go back, into a month-long conversation and pull insight out of that. And even more critically, it'll be able to generate automated alerts if the conversation goes there. So if it detects that, say, your kid is in what they call a moment of acute distress, starts talking about mental illness, starts talking about suicide, that will trigger an automated alert, and that can go to the parent, and then the parent will know to intervene. And so it's an important start. Again, it should not have even gotten to this place. These tools should have been in place long before these tragedies occurred. But let's give credit where credit is due, and let's hope that the rest of the industry sees what's happening with OpenAI and says we should be doing the same thing with our tools because they all behave in exactly the same way. They're all built the same way. They have the same architecture. So we need these protections across the board, not just with ChatGPT.
Thank you so much, Carmi Levy, for joining me for another round of It's Time for Technology Time. I love these segments so much. They make me feel better. Sometimes they make me more worried, but at the very least, I better understand technology at the end of it. So thank you very much.
So great speaking with you. I enjoy them just as much as you.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, and I am joined now by world-renowned tarot reader and best-selling author. How good does it feel for me to say best-selling author about you, Lori Deanne? I'm here with Lori Deanne.
It feels really good.
Doesn't that feel great? Because I followed you way back in the start of the lockdowns. Oof, I hate even hearkening back to this dark time in our lives. But your Instagram handle, which many people might know you first and foremost from, is Tarot Lori. And you started pulling these cards of the day and reading them for people. And I just watched this catch on like wildfire. And everyone loved this little slice. And we were in a place of searching for things that made us feel good, searching for answers that we didn't have,
yes,
and navigating the unknown from our homes and increasingly our phones. So I feel like you were here for that period.
For sure. I mean, I've been doing it for over 3 decades and I do it professionally, but it absolutely took off during the pandemic because it also got people used to doing things on Zoom, doing things online that before was only done in person.
Mm-hmm. And so you started doing Zoom tarot readings.
I know. And even for me, I was like, I always say my tagline is woo woo without the cuckoo. So I take it seriously, but I'm not goofy about it. And even I was like, how's this going to work? Because I did a lot of readings in person and maybe like 10% online. And they would usually be people I knew. And it amazed me. Now I don't do any readings in person really unless I'm doing events because I think people are more open energetically, more comfortable in their own space. And it just makes it a little easier for them to feel like able to do it, like ready for what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for everybody listening who, like me, isn't sort of a tarot nerd, what is Tarot 101? What would be the Reader's Digest version, what they need to know about tarot cards and what they're all about?
Yeah, so it's 78 cards. And each card has a different story to tell, a different picture on it. And it's a system. So it's not like oracle cards where you can get a little saying or a little message and a pretty picture with it, which is lovely and can be a beautiful, prompt and tool to use. But tarot is a system because there's certain like categories, major arcana, minor arcana, and you learn these stories for each card, and then together they tell the story of you.
And there's a whole thing about picking a deck, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can order something online at Amazon if you want. The tarot deck that everyone sort of knows is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is the one I have. And a lot of different things have sort of sprung from that, but it's sort of like the OG tarot deck. So you can order it on Amazon, but I always say it's nice to go down to like your local, wherever you can buy a crystal, they'll have tarot decks, and just go and hold them in your hand. They'll have sample decks out and see, because some of them are like big and unwieldy, and some of them are like teeny tiny or really flimsy or too hard. So you just kind of want to see which one like suits you, which one you have a connection with. When I got my deck, it was the only deck. Like there were no other. This was the tarot deck that was available at my local, woo-woo emporium. So that's the one that I got. And I've stuck with it. I have a few oracle decks. I've never even tried another tarot deck. I mean, I've goofed around with friends, but if they have a deck, but no, this is my ride or die.
It's really mainstreamed, I found, because tarot was always the thing that felt, when I was growing up at least, that it would the cool teen girl would be able to do it at slumber parties. It was sort of holding hands with the Ouija boards. It was viewed as being part of the occult. And like astrology, which I think was looked down upon, it was like tabloid magazine stuff. Now it's really mainstreamed, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. There are real influencers and creators and writers like yourself in this space, and they have massive followings, and it really makes people feel good. I honestly believe that is part of the reason for its success. It allows people to self-reflect in an interesting new way. And I think we're living in a time where people are seeking belonging, they're seeking answers, and they want more in their life. And it's sort of filling this void that has been left by maybe large-scale organized religions that are kind of seeing a dip in engagement. And people they want something more, and they want something that's very welcoming to everybody, and it allows you to kind of show up however you want. Does that sort of track with your experience with it?
100%. I mean, it is absolutely a tool for self-discovery and reflection or creativity. There's never fortune telling. There's never prophecy with tarot when it's done correctly. In popular culture, and you see the stereotype fortune teller lady with the tarot deck, and she's got the shawl and the bangles and the whole thing, the whole kitschy thing. I mean, it can be entertaining in that way, but when you're using tarot, in my view, like properly, it's something that isn't necessarily super serious. It can still be very fun and funny, but it's not really superficial. It tends to get to the heart of the matter, or it could also give you a perspective you haven't been looking at, push you in a direction you've been resisting. Like tarot is constantly reading me for filth. Like I'll be posting card of the day and thinking God damn it, tarot. Okay, I get it. Message received. I'll get my head out of my butt, and tarot's great for that. So yeah, I think it meets you where you're at the moment you're in. That's the magic of it.
I'm seeing more and more tarot for men too, because it's been a female occupied space, let's be real, for a long, long time. But I'm seeing more guys get into this. Are you doing more readings with men?
I love reading men because they are often, it's usually at events. I do a lot of events, and it's, I do have regular clients who are male, and actually what's really interesting, a lot of business owners who have me coming and giving readings, not only for them personally, but also let's pull a card for each quarter, or let's pull a card, for this group. I went to Google headquarters. I was brought in for this massive offsite onsite with 400 of their salespeople from around the world, the biggest first one they've done of their kind. And they brought in me, a tarot reader, to help support the mandate of that offsite, which was super cool. But even, I'm covered in goosebumps talking about Caitlin, but even sitting across from a dude at a party, an event where I'm there, and they'll just be like, okay, tarot lady, let's see what you got. And they're just dismissive of it. Not necessarily, rude or anything, but just they're not buying into it. And then after one card, I'm telling you, I have to kick them out of the chair. It's guy, you got to keep it moving. I have people who are waiting in line because they just are oh my God, what's something else? What's something else? It's a really, they see it for what it is. It's like a conversation with themselves.
Yes, exactly. And it's a nice little moment to think about yourself and to be introspective. And then to go back to the noise of your Google convention or wherever you are. You had told me that you once did a reading with a truck driver who had pulled over to the side of the road.
In Newfoundland, of all places.
Oh my, like not the bio you would expect for somebody who was seeking a tarot reading.
Yeah, I mean, and I also had a Hells Angels biker like pull up to my door way, way, way back, like way pre-pandemic when I was doing readings out of my house. And this guy pulled up and I was like, are you sure you're in the right place? Like, do you know what you've signed up for here? And he was desperate. And that happens a lot. Like you sort of have to get to a point of desperation where like, I'll try anything. And that he left with some solid homework because my readings always provide homework of some kind. It's not just like, this is great or this is horrible, see you later. It's more like, okay, you're in it now. How are we going to navigate through this? What are some things you can look at? What are some things you can do to help facilitate your moving forward?
It's incredible because it's, what you're really doing is you're saying out loud, you're acknowledging, you're taking time to think about what you want, where you want to go, and how are you ever going to get to where you're going if you don't even know where that is? How can you build the map or start that journey if you're so busy and you're so pulled into your phone and the second you have a moment off, you're like, I just want to rot in front of a screen. Clearly, I'm speaking from personal experience. And so if you take this time to sort of talk about what you want, say it out loud, write the things that haven't been working for you that you want to let go of down, burn them, whatever those things are. Like this is actually a little bit therapeutic, like real therapeutic.
100%. And what's really cool is that you see people doing these things, not even realizing that they're doing rituals. Like if you're in a book club, you're doing a ritual. If you're blowing out a birthday candle, you're doing a ritual. It's something that connects us to ourselves, to our community, to the divine. They are essential. They are the foundation of modern humanity.
I love this conversation so much, and so we are going to continue it. I will have Tarot Lori Deanne, world-renowned tarot reader and best-selling author, back right after this.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Where intellectual honesty gets witness protection from social prosecution. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper, and I am joined now by one of my favorite people. She is a world-renowned tarot reader. She's a best-selling author. Her name is Lori Deanne. You might already follow her on Instagram. Her handle there is Tarot Lori. If you don't already follow her, go and do it. I'm so thrilled to speak with you about your books, about Big Deck Energy, about Burn Your Bleep. And one thing I notice about these books that I think is great, and it feels like also probably very closely tied to the success of your IG platform, is your sense of humor and the accessibility of the language. It isn't dense. It isn't hard to understand. And it does just sort of make you feel good and look at things a little bit differently. And like you're very tongue-in-cheek about it all, which I think goes a long, long way, especially for somebody who is just a little tarot curious.
For sure. And that's actually my goal. So thank you for validating that for me is I want to remove the barrier to access, barrier to entry for rituals and tarot, because these are the kinds of things you can usually do. Once you have a deck, you can do it anytime, anywhere for free. And that goes for a lot of rituals too, whether you're releasing what, no longer serves you under a full moon, or manifesting, or making a cup of tea in a very intentional way to just ground yourself in the moment. That's my jam, is to make sure that people see this is nothing to be intimidated by or scared of. It's something that is a tool.
And and obviously in day-to-day life, everybody can follow you on Instagram, get your books. But if you want to go even one step deeper, you are doing retreats now, and you're doing retreats at a particularly spectacular location.
Yeah, I am a ritual expert at Canyon Ranch Spa in Woodside, California. So in the middle of the redwoods. I mean, it is a magical place, and it's a smaller Canyon Ranch location. So it's just really cozy, and I'm going for the second time this October, and it's a weekend of rituals as well as all of the other things that they offer. So it's pretty magical. But I did a women's retreat where I live in Oakville, Ontario, called the Soul Spa in June. And I originally thought maybe like 30 or 40 women want to come hang out. We'll have a coven, we'll do some stuff, burn some things. And it ended up selling out the space at 85 people.
Oh my gosh.
It was massive. We had a retail component. I brought in some of my favorite crystals from my my supplier of crystals, and had this beautifully curated day. And when we got feedback at the end, the only feedback we got was like, get more crystals next time and make it longer. So I think people after at a certain stage of life are desperate to gather. They're desperate to connect in ways that just aren't really on offer these days.
Yeah. I mean, do you know how hard it is to get 80 people to commit to doing something in person, in real life, in 2025?
And on a Friday in summer.
We're living in an era of canceled plans and sitting indoors alone with your phone. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, I know you're a best-selling author, but like that, for anyone who I guess is not actually watching this, we'll probably have clips of this online somewhere. But my jaw literally dropped when you said 80 people were there to do this. That's a tough sell. Okay, so just to give everyone kind of like a run through, you do card of the day on your Instagram. That's how I found you. And so we're kind of going to pull a little card right now, and everyone will get a taste of the magic of Tarot Lori.
Yes. And I should tell you too, I forgot to even tell you this, Caitlin. And I need to work on publicizing myself. I've started getting on YouTube, because when I was at Google headquarters, all the Google dudes were like, babe, why aren't you doing more on YouTube? So I have a YouTube channel, and I'm doing monthly astrology tarot card pulls for like Sagittarius, Cancer, whatever. And I also do this thing called Tarot in Real Life, as well as Card of the Day. But every week I pull a card for myself. And then at the end of the week, I post a little video about how that card's message showed up in my life. So to kind of show you an example of how a tarot card shows up in real life.
It's perfect, because a lot of times you can get the reading, and I've had readings with you in the past, and it'll sit with me. It'll certainly resonate. I'll see lots of it, but it'll take a while, and I'll go, oh, like that's what that meant. So we'll go through the exercise right now.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to stare at you awkwardly for one moment. You're used to this part. Get your mojo in there. And now I'm just going to ask a very open-ended question. What does Caitlin need to know right now? Pull a card. Oh, nice. Okay, Caitlin, is it okay if I pull two for you? Because I want to give you a little homework. And this is a beautiful lesson in how tarot works, because the first card was the 10 of Wands, and it's this guy lugging around this heavy load of sticks. And he's been dragging it around forever.
Deeply relatable.
Right? He's almost at his destination in the distance, and is telling you a burden you've been carrying, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, financial, or a combination, is going to be lifted. And when it's lifted, it's like, oh my God, I can breathe. I'm feeling lighter and taller. Beautiful easing of burdens. Now, I pulled another card because tarot loves to tell you like, okay, that's nice. You want this, here's the work, or don't screw it up. So to help you facilitate this easing of burdens, and also because of this card itself, how to react to this easing of burdens, you need to remember the message of the Two of Coins. It's this guy juggling these two coins with this crazy waves behind him and the sea behind him. And it's reminding you, it's busy, busy energy. It's like hustle, 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 and you can handle it. But the Two of Coins is reminding you that you're like those guys spinning the plates on the sticks, trying to keep them from crashing. And sometimes, those plates you're spinning are the most delicate, fine bone china. They need your care, your attention. Other times, those plates you're spinning are cheap plastic crap from dollar stores. So, let them drop. Don't get stretched so thin, pulled in a million directions, trying to keep all the plates going that could be offloaded or delegated, or just forget about it. And it might be the good stuff down the road. But right now there's a lot of Dollar Tree. So just make sure that you are considering how we are often frantically spinning Tupperware. And we are treating it like it's grandma's good china because we feel a compulsion and need an obligation to validate our worth, our belonging, our contribution. And this card is saying, babe, why are you doing that? That's not necessary.
Yeah. You want to hold the good china and maybe drop the Dollarama stuff.
Like not only dropping what isn't needed, but also like really getting curious about why you were spinning it in the first place. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's always the part of having these cards drawn, I think, and then having a bit of a nice little bit of engagement with yourself is that as you're talking, I can kind of like go back and apply this to recent situations in my life. And even if some people who listen are like, yeah, but you could do that for anything. It's like, okay, well then go do that for anything. But like this does create a moment for you to do just that. And that is kind of why I like it.
Well, that's the point too, right? Is that you'll see proof in the past about like, oh yeah, that tracks for that. That's interesting. But you also have it in your mind moving forward. So that, and it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's something being pinned to be mindful of, to be like, wait a second, hearing my voice in your head going, is this Dollar Tree or is this the good stuff? And then dumping as necessary. Like that's good intel.
Do you think that I feel like there is a pervasive energy around back to school that happens for just about everybody. And I found that the last few weeks in my day-to-day life, in working, so many people are just feeling like very, very bogged down and stressed out because we're going back into school, new season. September always feels weirdly like the start of a new year, not January.
100%.
Yeah. So have you been noticing this too in the cards that you've pulled and the readings you've been doing?
I mean, people always have stuff going on regardless of the time of year. I almost notice it more in myself because I too have been like agitated and on edge. I just dropped my daughter off to college for the first time. So that's a whole thing for me. And just to get into the astro a little bit, there's an eclipse season that we are entering and there's a full moon coming up, and eclipses are very ungrounded, wild kind of energy. It just heightens everything. So the astrology kind of supports feeling a bit on edge, as well as just, the messages we're receiving in the media, back to school, get back on it. The summer's over. It's such an abrupt, like overnight, that suddenly the Halloween decorations are up and summer is done. Right. So it's a lot of things.
So if you are interested in anything we've spoken about today, please go follow Lori on Instagram. Please go get one of her books, Burn Your Bleep or Big Deck Energy. Those are the two most recent ones she's got. And then probably, I hope, more to come. I really do. And maybe I'll go to one of your retreats. Like I might be one of those 80 people at the next one.
Would love.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori.
Bye.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Broadcasting intimate confessions and useless obsessions. You're listening to The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper. From award-winning shorts to powerful featured docs, Lisa Rideout has built her career telling stories that we don't always see on screen, from sex workers to one of my favorite Canadian cultural icons, Sue Johansson. So now she has fittingly turned her focus to one of the most beloved, culturally iconic, and also like boundary-pushing teen dramas of all time. So of course she's here to talk about her brand new documentary, Degrassi, Whatever It Takes. Please welcome filmmaker Lisa Rideout to The Last Show. I'm thrilled to have you here to talk about this.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about it as well.
It's exciting. I mean, were you a Degrassi head growing up? I certainly was.
I definitely watched the show. I was my generation, there were reruns on television.
Mm.
There's like a period of time in the Degrassi history where there were reruns of like junior high and high. And I would like rush home from school, watch it on the television while I simultaneously talked to a friend on the phone. Yeah, I was definitely a fan. So it's very cool to now be here directing the documentary about Degrassi.
So I grew up like you, kind of watching, I would guess, the syndicated runs of it. And I remember it was one of those shows where I think parents had identified that it was kind of important to watch, but they were sometimes uncomfortable with the subject matter. And I think that was a really great dance that this show did because it meant that parents would watch the show and be able to use it as a method to spark conversation with their teens who really didn't want to talk about the stuff that parents wanted to talk about with them, but the show was like this little door opener for those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, you like hit the nail on the head. Where I know Linda Schuyler, the creator, she says a lot that it was meant to be educational. I think in this way that's like not dry. So she would talk about how she wanted it to be a method of sex education because, as
Mhm.
we know, we weren't getting that in schools properly. So there's that. She wanted it to be an anti-bullying campaign as well.
Yeah.
So I think what Degrassi did so well was teach teens without kind of them knowing, because we all know those shows that we had at the time too, where there was like a moral at the end of the episode, or there's
Mhm.
an adult that was telling you like what decision you should make. And that
Mhm.
was not what they were doing at all. So I think it was so smart and obviously very important for us and our parents who didn't want to have those conversations, to have a space where we could feel comfortable to maybe have it like be a spark for us to talk about something.
I mean, teen pregnancy has always been this verboten topic for so long, even though every single person would have encountered this in their actual day-to-day life. I mean, there were low numbers of teen pregnancies at my high school, but they were there. And so seeing that mirrored on a successful network TV show was really something. I mean, it just made it feel very, very real. And exactly to your point, it wasn't approached in a finger wagging way. It wasn't of the after school specials era that felt sort of too lessony on its face. And so as a teen, you dismissed it. That meant that this felt out of touch. This was your parent trying to tell you something. I just wonder, when you were making the documentary, did they really touch on the fact that like this was always, I guess, like it was always the intent to push the boundary that far? Or did they get more comfortable with that as time went on and it was received by the audience?
I think in terms of pushing boundaries, because the creator, Linda Schuyler, was a school teacher before she created the show, a lot of it was reflecting what she saw in the classroom. And then other kind of boundary pushing episodes that they had were reflecting the conversation at the time. So, the big episodes about abortion, it was that these conversations were happening, quote unquote, on the playground, in the news, in different spaces, and they were just reflecting what was happening.
Yeah, it was really very slice of life. And also the value looking back when you didn't have social media. Because now, there's lots of different stories that are being told in a much freer way, care of our phones. But that wasn't happening. I mean, you just didn't, I don't think, I can't state enough how like huge this was at the time.
I know it's hard to remember a time where, oh, because now we can just look up anything, right? And then when both of us were watching Degrassi, when you just turned on the TV and you watched what was on TV, there wasn't you couldn't find information in the way that we can now. And we can go on and on about the negatives and positives about social media, but there is a conversation that's there. So I hope teens can feel less alone when they're Googling like some of those embarrassing things, but we didn't have that. I don't know, you went to a library? Like, I'm not quite sure what we did at the time to figure out our periods or something that, maybe felt embarrassing at the time.
And like obviously just an example personal to me, but I remember the sex ed growing up in our classes was double taught by the teacher who taught us recorder. And I don't know how they saddled this poor woman with having to do both. She thought she was teaching kids recorder. And then they were like, hey, could you tack on sex ed? And she had to bring up these felt cutouts of a man and a woman's body and hand out Velcro chunks of hair and ask kids to put go to the front of the class and put up where you're growing hair where there wasn't hair before.
I have heard the gym teacher thing. I've never heard anyone say their sex ed came from the teacher that taught them recorder. It's pretty incredible.
Mrs. Schmidt had her work cut out for her. So, okay, how did this documentary come to be? So, like, are you just like, I've done the Sue Johansson thing. I'm sort of like in this lane. Maybe I want to take this on. Like, who approached who? How did it get together?
I was wrapping up Sex with Sue about Sue Johansson, and she was on Degrassi. She played Dr. Sally, a sex educator on the show, which is pretty incredible. So we had tried to incorporate Degrassi into that film, and we couldn't quite do it. But I did talk to Linda Schuyler at the time about her bringing Sue onto Degrassi. And then I guess fast forward a year, and I was like, oh, it'd be really amazing to make something about Degrassi. I love that time period. Obviously, love making films about pop culture with women at the center of them. And at the same time, Carrie Mudd, who is our EP, a producer, and Aaron Sharp, another producer, were working on it. And so they brought me on. So it was a bit of, I think, like the universe delivered the thing. And we came together, to make the documentary.
Drake getting involved is a huge coup, but I appreciate that he's not shying away from his time on Degrassi because he has been, obviously had this crazy career that eclipsed just about everything else. So him talking about it and then like being in the trailer, I feel like just opened so many eyeballs up to the fact that the project was happening and that he's in it and this is what it's about. Did you guys feel that as well?
Yeah, I think with a lot of actors that were in it, it was incredible when we could have people in the film that hadn't spoken about the franchise so much. Like, obviously, we do research before we make the documentary, and I hadn't seen Drake talk about Degrassi too much. So it's pretty incredible to be able to sit down with him and have him reflect on his time on Degrassi. So it was obviously very cool. And I think, too, like, obviously, all of us Canadians know where Drake came from, but I think some other, you just see comments too, like, oh, he was on Degrassi. So it's cool for people that didn't know to now see the connection.
When you're interviewing the actors and actresses who were in the show, do you get the sense from them, talking to them, that they really cherished this like part of their career and that it was a really big deal for them? Or do some of them have complicated relationships? Like, what was surprising in that to you?
Yeah, I think it's complicated. I think for anyone, like, you watch anything about teen actors, it's complicated and it's different depending on which franchise you are part of. So I think, something that surprised me, obviously being a fan of the show, I completely understand the impact that the show had on viewers. And I feel like a lot of the things that made it so impactful created kind of like a complicated relationship for the actors that were on the show. So for example, them being the same age as their character, which we probably didn't clock watching. We probably felt it, but it's, I didn't know like a 15-year-old is playing a 15-year-old, which lends to, the authentic voice. They're potentially going through the same thing that their character is going through, but that also means they're 15, going to school, playing someone that like got a boner, had their period, and being teased because, young people will just think you're kind of the character. And so a lot of them, I think, have a complicated relationship with the series and just with being teen actors as well. So that's something that they talk about in the film.
Well, I can't wait to see it. It's premiering September 13th at TIFF. I'm so thrilled to speak with you today. Thank you for taking the time. Lisa Rideout, award-winning filmmaker behind the brand new documentary. Thanks so much for joining The Last Show.
Thank you. Thanks, Caitlin.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
Smart, sharp, and slightly unhinged. Late night's fresh perspective. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It's The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper, and I'm joined now by a comedic duo and podcasters from Cape Breton. They've kind of become influencers. Their show is one of my favorites to listen to and to watch. If you don't already watch it, but you do listen, you've got to start because their hair and makeup skills are going underappreciated if you're only listening to them. Their names are Tracy and Martina. Their podcast is on Trailer Park Boys Plus. It's Shooting the Shit with Tracy and Martina. Thank you guys so much for talking to me today.
Happy to be here.
How are you? Yeah, high sexies and all that.
Where'd you get that mic, Martina?
Oh, just Amazon choice.
Oh, did you? I need to get one of them.
No, it's only cheap, yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say, do you have to do your trademark intro?
Okay. Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Hi, sexies.
Tracy, hon.
And I'm your girl, Martina.
That's perfect.
And we're shooting the with Caitlin Green today.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just going in my bio. I need to isolate that clip. I want to set the scene for any of our listeners whose algorithm hasn't been blessed with your show and content. So kind of explain Shooting the with Tracy and Martina.
Honestly, it's just me and Martina getting together in her she shed, and we have a couple drinks, and we just
Gossip.
we dish the dirt. Yeah, we're gossiping about every person in our lives, and sometimes that has gotten us in trouble a little bit, but
Yeah, but we also take in like submissions from listeners too. Like we ask people, so we do like the gossip session called Story Time, and then we do a session called I'm Flipping, and then we do Just Wondering. So for those two, people either write in, say what they're flipping about, or what they're just wondering about, and then we always leave listeners with a life hack, like a little how to, like maybe it's something we saw on Pinterest that we like or don't like, or just something we come up with.
Do you guys have any sort of like hair and makeup tips? Because I feel like you are beauty influencers in a way.
yeah, no, I see that. I like to leave if I do a really nice smoky eye and I'm going out, I'm getting double days out of that, right? Like I'm sleeping in it. I'll sleep right still on my back like a dead person. And then next day I'll just add a little bit more mascara, touch it up a little bit. Hey, you do the same thing.
Oh yeah, like the clumpy lashes. The longer you leave them on, the longer the lashes get, and they look fuller. I try not to wash them off, maybe because it's kind of like washing your hair. The less that you wash your eye makeup off, the less you need to. You build up a little bit.
Me and you are like high maintenance to be low maintenance, right?
I love that choice.
So I do like the lip stains and everything, and then that stains the color of my lips for like the full week. I go for spray tans once a week. Yeah, sleeping in your makeup, like high maintenance to be low maintenance, I find.
Well, it reminds me of me, Tracy, because blonde hair is dry and you have to wash it less. So there you go. Just stuff like that, right?
I love it. And what do people need to know about Cape Breton? Because obviously you guys are devout Cape Bretoners. It's sort of like a slice of life from both of you there. I think that it is a miss by the Nova Scotia Tourism Board that they don't yet have you guys influencing for them.
A big thing is that we're not from Newfoundland.
That's the thing too. People like to say Cape Breton is Newfoundland from Wish, but it's not. We got our own thing going on here.
Oh, yeah.
Talented musicians, eh?
Yeah, I guess we do. And do you know what? A lot of us do have family over in Newfoundland.
Not me.
No, but Cape Bretoners do, Dal.
Do they?
Yeah, a lot of them do, yeah. But do you know what? The Newfoundlanders make the joke, eh? They're like, oh, Cape Bretoners, it's Newfoundlanders that ran out of money on their way to Ontario. And it's like, that's ignorant.
That is very ignorant.
Is there a bit of a rivalry that we don't know about in the rest of Canada between Newfoundland and Cape Breton?
No.
No.
No. Do you know what? I know somebody from Cape Breton, eh? And he went over to Newfoundland and he's saying, oh, people say, where are you from? You'd say Nova Scotia. And they're like, okay. And then he started saying Cape Breton. And all of a sudden, like, he's getting free drinks and people are like giving him hugs and all that. Isn't that nice, Tracy? Like,
yeah.
How do you feel about the influx of sort of like out-of-towners moving into Nova Scotia during the pandemic? This was a big thing. I had 3 different people I know from Ontario who picked up and moved to Nova Scotia.
do you know what? Something I got to say, because we posted a video online talking about people moving to Nova Scotia, and we get a lot of ignorant comments saying like people from other parts of the world. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about specifically people from Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because what they're doing is like they're buying up all the beautiful waterfront properties. And so people that are on the island, that live on the island, we can't afford to buy property or nothing. I'm still renting.
yeah, they're driving up the prices. Not that I thought I could ever buy a house anyway, but there are people out there that got their nursing license and everything, and they still can't buy houses because Ontarians are just moving to Nova Scotia, buying up all the property, like Tracy said, and then here, what we usually do is wait for the price to go down before you buy a house, but they're just like, they're starting bidding wars and everything. So now everything's all expensive and screwed up, and they're not friendly, Caitlin.
A bidding war is very Ontario coded. That's a very Ontario behavior. So I don't like it. Like, I live in Ontario, even though I have maritime connections and family. It's not something that I would like to darken your doorway. So I'm sad to hear that it's coming there. I think you guys should kick it out.
No, but you know what? You're friendly, and that would be okay, because it's kind of what it boils down to. Like, people from Toronto and all that, they're used to not saying hi to people on the street, is what I'm gathering. And then they come to Cape Breton, and all of a sudden I'm like, hi, how are you? And they're just like looking straight ahead, and it's ignorant.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a friendly attitude if you head out to the Maritimes is kind of key. I also think you guys you've done some great, dare I call them, think pieces, stuff that made me kind of wonder. And one was on the debate about tiny homes. Tiny homes are this big thing that HGTV always promotes and everyone loves them. But you were pointing out, like, are tiny homes not in essence like motorhomes?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. Millennials have been lied to, right? They've been sold this tiny home vision that, it's great to live in a tiny home. It's great to live in your van, and it's being pushed down our throats like you got all this freedom. No, yous are living in a sea can. Let's be real. Yous are living in sea cans and calling it a tiny home. That's terrible.
Here's the thing, that's fine, but don't go on Instagram glamorizing it, getting like 500,000 followers, like, oh, I love my little tiny life. It's like, no, you can't even fit a kettle in there. And like, they're the same people that are looking down on other people in trailer parks and all that. It's like, you're doing the same thing. It's just rebrand. I don't know.
Does Nova Scotia Power run power to them sea cans? Can they do that?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah, you can get a generator too, though. Tracy is looking into that. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys have had some really great guests. So you're on the Trailer Park Boys Plus network. How did you connect with the Trailer Park Boys in the first place?
Isn't that awesome?
It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, we loved them. They're very sweet.
We're always asking them to go for drinks and stuff too.
No, they don't.
Really?
Well, they do with each other, but
okay.
How'd that come about, Martina? How'd we get hooked up with them?
Well, just like Nova Scotia's a small place, right? And they're going around, like, they just released the liquor, so they're going to liquor stores, and we're always trying to like coordinate how we can bump into them, because it's not too hard to bump into someone in Nova Scotia. So we were just like, we're harassing them and pestering them, like, please give us a show, please put us on your network, and just like tagging them in comments and stuff. And people don't know, when you tag people in Instagram comments, it really makes a difference.
Yes.
I've seen some Canadian celebrities noticing your content, which has really warmed my heart. Like, you had a great video, Martina, out, and it was sort of a guide to a futon. Like, showing people how a futon works and how you set it up.
I'm on it right now.
You're on the futon right now. Okay.
I'm on the futon right now. Yeah.
And Canadian icon Jan Arden, this came across her desk somehow.
Stop. Look, I cannot. She commented on all of our stuff, eh?
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was spyware.
I got a vivid memory of growing up with Jan Arden's music. Ma would get ready to it. Going out to the bars, listening to Jan Arden. But yeah, no, I grew up listening to her music, and she's an icon. Maybe one day we'll get her on shooting the show.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for joining me today. And again, where can everyone find you? I encourage everyone to get both of you on their algorithm. It brings me endless lols. The amount of times I'm like tears laughing in bed while my husband's sleeping next to me, and it's because of your content, it's not low. Like, if I had $1 for every time that happened, I could retire. So where can everybody else follow you?
Well, we're on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at It's Tracy Hun.
At Your Girl Martina. We're massive on Facebook.
And then where else? We got TracyandMartina.com for all of our show dates, updates, all of our info's on there.
And your merch, most importantly. I'm going to get some Tracy and Martina merch.
And the podcast is available everywhere that you get podcasts.
Thank you both so much for joining me today. This has been a real pleasure. These are my unofficial Cape Breton correspondents, Tracy and Martina. Thanks again, ladies.
Where do we send the bill for this?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Don't let them tell you you have to change. Just because you feel a little strange.
Breaking down today's chaos with tomorrow's headlines. The Last Show with David Cooper.
This is The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green in for David Cooper, who is about to return from his annual pilgrimage to Burning Man. And I am joined now by Lee Kuhnle. He is a political science professor at Humber Polytechnic. He is the co-host of the Uncover Up podcast. Lee, I spoke to your co-host on that podcast before. I haven't had a chance to talk to you here on Conspiracy Corner, but I'm very excited because I'm not a conspiracy junkie, but I appreciate that there are many, many conspiracy junkies out there. I do find them fascinating. I just don't follow them. So I can't wait to have you educate me today.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin. It's always great to be on the show. And yeah, I think I have a fun one that I hope will, be educational in a sense. It was certainly educational for me. Let's put it like that. As somebody who's been sort of really stuck into the world of conspiracies, I sometimes wonder, how is it that people believe things that I know to be totally incorrect? Now, obviously, sometimes I'm wrong, like that happens, but we all have that experience, don't we? Where we're talking to somebody and we're like, how is this? How do you see the world in this way?
Yeah. Okay, so wait, I'm curious, just to set the tone then for all of our listeners. You are interested in conspiracies, but you're not all in on them yourself. Because I think sometimes when you hear someone talk about conspiracies a lot, or you hear that they're a conspiracy expert, you assume that they're, Mulder from the X-Files. So
Exactly. And you're right. I try and take a sort of a nuanced approach. Both Nathan and I start with the assumption that there are some conspiracies in history that are completely true, that we have a lot of documented evidence for, we have witnesses, we have government files, and those are often as bizarre and as unbelievable as the ones that turn out not to be true. So we try and sort of take it case by case. And so in some cases, I am a conspiracy believer because I think the evidence is there. In some cases, I don't think it happened. And then there's ones that fall in between. But you're right that if you label yourself as a conspiracy theorist, and I sometimes just do that cheekily at a cocktail party or something, if someone asks me what I do, I'm like, yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist.
And then also between you and Nathan, who is Scully and who's Mulder?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we switch back and forth. And we have arguments about, I think that's one of our, I don't know how to put it, it's sort of our dynamic is that on the whole, we tend to agree because the evidence, I think, is pretty overwhelming. But yeah, no, sometimes we disagree. And sometimes I'm Mulder and sometimes I'm Scully. This is just one of these bizarre incidents in history. So it has to do with the Kennedy assassination. Of course, that's just one of those epic conspiracy theories that is still really, a lot of people are still shedding ink on it and thinking and talking about it. And the guy who really, he coined it and he wrote about it is a journalist, Errol Morris. And Errol Morris, together with Seymour Hersh, are two legends in the world of conspiratorial investigative journalism. For the last 30, 40 years, they have been just blowing the lid off of really unbelievable, bizarre, scary conspiracies that have been true. Now, Errol Morris talks about this guy in Dallas, Texas, who is there at the day of the parade when Kennedy is driving by. He is standing exactly at the spot where the shots go into the motorcade and hit Kennedy. Now, what you need to know is that on this day, it is a clear, beautiful, sunny day. And you can look at the people who are in the crowds and nobody is dressed for rain. Like this is a nice, everybody it's a wonderful day, except one guy. There's one guy who is dressed head to toe in a black trench coat and has an open umbrella. And he is just standing right there, exactly at the spot where Kennedy is hit. This is just one of those things where, I find it almost impossible. If this is all the information I've got to go on, I find it almost impossible to imagine that this didn't have something to do with the assassination. Come on.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's weird. You might think, well, okay, maybe he was trying to cover himself from the sun, or maybe he just happened, he thought it was raining, but no.
I was going to say, no, that's not where my head went at all. Because I see people walk around trying to block themselves from the sun in 2025. I don't think sun protection was as current of a topic back then.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if you did worry as a man in 1963, you probably wore one of those hats that were very fashionable.
Literally anything other than like a black outfit and an umbrella on a hot day.
Exactly. So, of course, the conspiracy theorists created a lot of theories around this, including he's the real assassin. There's a rifle somehow hidden within the umbrella, and that's what he uses, right? And Errol Morris actually asks that this guy come forward, and he does. So in 1978, at the House Select Committee on Assassinations, formed because of the Kennedy assassinations, this man comes forward and explains himself. And the answer to what he was doing that day, I find just unbelievably bizarre and really illuminating and instructive. He was there, and it's very convoluted. He was essentially there to protest JFK's father's relationship with Neville Chamberlain and Neville Chamberlain's appeasement policies with respect to Hitler. And so this guy opened the umbrella as a way of being like, you are in some bizarre way related to appeasement policies, and I'm protesting this.
So he was a crazy person.
Yeah, in the world of protest, you want to make sure that your audience understands the purpose of your protest.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of went awry a
bit of a reach there.
Yeah, a bit of a reach, exactly. But what Errol Morris, and I really think this is an instructive point, says is that if you look at any moment in history closely enough, like if you really zoom in, because of course the Kennedy assassination is exactly that, right? We have now been spending decades just analyzing every frame of the Zapruder film, or, talking to anybody who might have been there. Just reconstructing what trajectory could the bullet have taken, looking at every single still photograph. And what starts to happen when you look at any moment that closely, you start to see really weird things. You start to see weird things that just don't make any sense. And they almost call out for a non-mainstream interpretation, because a lot of us who haven't really studied it, or whatever, there's nothing there to the conspiracy. But then when you do look into it, it's suddenly, my experience is, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, I didn't know that. Uh-oh. And then my own security around how I thought the world worked starts to get a little undermined. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And so I think that this is a bit of a cautionary tale about how really smart, intelligent people who are looking closely at a particular time in history can be misled into believing that something happened which maybe didn't.
And I also do think that there's, especially when you have something like a politician appearing in public or going to a parade, it's going to attract some weirdos. Like, I think when there's a public event of any kind, even if it was just a celebrity, like if you have one of these things that happen in the downtown of any city, you're going to look around and see some weirdness pop up. And so if you start to pick apart these moments that happen out in the public and you pick through them with a fine-tooth comb, you're going to find some weird stuff. Honestly, if I just set up a camera at the closest intersection to my place in downtown Toronto, you could probably start forming some conspiracy theories. And I think that's just like the nature of people. People are weird. So, okay, when you come back, I want to get a little bit more into the buy-in of it all, because this is the Umbrella Man theory. It goes all the way back to the JFK assassination. But there are so many of these that happen for every generation. There are so many current big news stories that people start to pick apart, and then they all kind of have their own quote unquote Umbrella Man. So we are going to continue with more Conspiracy Corner with Lee Kunle when we come back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When the day is done, we're just getting started. The last show with David Cooper.
Welcome back to The Last Show. I'm Caitlin Green, in for David Cooper here on Conspiracy Corner. I am joined by a political science professor at Humber Polytechnic and co-host of the Uncover Up podcast. Dr. Lee Kunle is back. We were talking about the Umbrella Man conspiracy theory before the break. You've been tasked with kind of giving me a baseline knowledge about this conspiracy theory and about conspiracy theories in general. And I am now learning that there's kind of quote unquote Umbrella Man around some of the big ones, right? And the Umbrella Man of it all, it's the buy-in, that it's the weird thing that throws people off and makes them think maybe there is something happening beneath the surface here. And one of these Umbrella Man moments happened around the insurance policy that was taken out just before 9/11 occurred. Can you explain that one to me? Because the 9/11 thing I was in high school when that happened. This was obviously such a defining moment in history, especially obviously for North America. And so what is this insurance policy piece of it? I'm unfamiliar.
You're right. 9/11 was the big one for those people who came after Kennedy. There are a lot of conspiracies about, but there are some that really reach these stratospheric heights where it's just everyone knows about it. And if you were alive during 9/11, you can play that game that our parents used to play with. Where were you at the Kennedy assassination? Well, I know exactly where I was. I know the room I was in when I was told about 9/11.
Did they send you home when that happened? Like, did they cancel the classes for the day?
I was in Berlin.
Oh, you were in Berlin. Okay.
And so it was already in the afternoon when it was 9 o'clock in the States. And so I was finishing up my day when somebody came in, a colleague rushed into the room and said, this was the first tower had been hit by an airplane. And of course, I had no reference here. I assumed this was one of these like little planes, the twin engine thingies, where somebody maybe had a heart attack or something. It was just a terrible accident. And I still remember going home on the subways in Berlin at that time had the television screens inside the subway cars, and it was silence.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody was talking on the subways. It was, Now, of course, this is another one of those examples where people have looked really closely. Mm-hmm. And the closer you look, the more instances emerge that kind of trigger a skeptical response where you're like, wait a minute, I believe the mainstream account that it was terrorists who did this. Mm-hmm. And then there are these coincidences that just seem too coincidental, if you know what I mean. Like there's a guy in a black umbrella right where the president is assassinated. It just seems too coincidental. And you're right that there's this thing with the insurance policies. So what happened was just a few weeks before the attacks on the Twin Towers, a really substantial insurance policy was taken out by the owners of those towers, which included specifically a clause referencing terrorism. Oh, and then, of course, the attacks happened.
Yeah.
And people looked at this, as well as other events of that day, but that too, and thought, this is awfully suspicious. there are many conspiracy theories around 9/11, but of course the big one is that it was a quote unquote inside job and powerful people knew that it was going to happen. And so they were going to, make some money on the side here. Right? It seems very reasonable. If you know a tragedy is going to happen, you might be able to cash in on it.
And then I know there were always things about like some offices that like weren't populated that day. Like some people didn't go into work that day, and then people read into that as being a sign that they were perhaps made aware of something.
Exactly. And so for the rest of us, we go living our life, we have a sense of what reality is, and then we find ourselves in conversation with somebody who has really done this kind of research and presents us with these rather startling facts. I mean, you go look it up. You can do it right now. You can look it up. There was indeed a big insurance policy, and it did indeed have, that terrorism claim in it, which seems odd because, the United States wasn't a center of active terrorism.
I do like my own little narrative on it. And I'll pick apart and try to be like, okay, well, if you presented this in a court of law, like how would this go? And I feel as though because the World Trade Center had previously been targeted, why wouldn't they build that into their insurance policy? Of course they would. Now, could they have known it was going to happen that closely? No. I would also be curious as to like, when did their insurance policy expire? If it just so happened that their insurance policy expired and they were forced to address this issue, then that seems less sketchy to me. That's like just good due diligence. But if they just all of a sudden were like, hey, I know our policy doesn't expire for another 5 years, but we want to renegotiate it out of nowhere, they just call you up out of the blue, like that probably would get me a little more interested. But there are all kind of like always those things. And part of it is, I just think you sometimes can't account for humans being like weird or sloppy or who knows, like there's that, like a human error is going to come in and make anything look sketchy, I bet, at any time.
You're a great critical thinker. I mean, if you were in my class, you would have just gotten an A+ on that because that is exactly the answer. You got it in the first 2 tries. The first one was, the Twin Towers had already been targeted. Now, of course, if you're in the States, especially if you're in New York, and if you were alive during the 90s, you remember this. But for a lot of my students, it comes as quite a shock that the attack on the Twin Towers was actually the second one. The first one, I think, was 93. The other thing is exactly right. As you say, the insurance policy had just happened to have run out. And so they needed to renew it. And the terrorism claim, it just tended to be standard with a lot of insurance policies for these really big buildings, especially for like tourist centers or stuff like that. So you're right, it actually sort of defangs that claim when you know the context. And I think in the same way with the Umbrella Man, like when you know who he is and he comes forward and he explains his very convoluted protest, like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. It's that seductive moment before that, right? Where I find if I check in with myself, I notice a certain kind of emotional instability. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Well, I feel myself changing my mind. And look, this is what we want, right? We want people to change their minds. If you get new information and you take that on board and you think about it, and it contradicts what you previously thought was correct, then you should change your mind.
The current one that has captured my attention, as I think it has many people, is sort of the Epstein conspiracy theories. Now, there's so many layers of conspiracy theories. I can't possibly get into all of them, from the quote unquote cover up around the files, who's in the list, all this stuff. Like,
welcome to my world.
I was going to say this one pretzels my brain, but the piece of him committing suicide in his jail cell, that one. For a long time, I was of the mind that, this is genuinely very, very strange. This is a high value individual who's incarcerated. You would be well advised to closely monitor them. Where's the videotape and where were the guards? Like, why was he allowed to do this? And some people, because of those 2 lapses in judgment, having no video evidence of this and the guards not being there, they believe that he was killed, that he didn't commit suicide, that he was killed. And for me, I thought maybe something like that has gone on. But now, because there's so many eyeballs attached to this, there are so many people poring over this, and still yet nothing is surfacing. I have kind of come around and said, I actually think this was a case of the U.S. jail system being kind of notoriously bad.
I think you're absolutely right. And so you've changed your mind then, have you? Because there wasn't anybody who came forward, because there hasn't been any good evidence, you've changed your mind.
Dr. Lee Kunla has been my guest here on Conspiracy Corner. I am not going to be coming for your job because I am certainly no expert, but you are. And if you're interested in conspiracy theories at all, breaking them down, debunking them, or bunking them, then please check out his podcast, The Uncover Up Podcast. He is the co-host. And thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin.
That's it for the last show. It's not the last show, but it is my last show. Your beloved host, David Cooper, has dusted himself off, literally and figuratively, after several weeks in the Nevada desert at Burning Man. So he's going to be back tomorrow, likely with bizarre stories about stripper clowns and maybe even a new world record set for most number of days spent without showering. I have loved keeping his mic warm and will of course be back to the show to inundate everyone with my reality TV disorder. And in the meantime, you can find me co-hosting the Jan Arden podcast and posting about pop culture and parenting on Instagram, if that's your thing. Thank you so much for listening and have a great night.
The end. For 4 years, Noah and Sarah have been clawing out from beneath the Denver airport. They have faced monsters, secret armies, and killing machines. But they're done running. This season on Escaping Denver, the truth is revealed. Captives become legends, and a war 1,000 years in the making erupts around them. Join us for the end of our story.
The final season of Escaping Denver drops August 11th on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.